I know I'm not the only one, but as of late, there's been a whole lot of positive chatter surrounding the Stookman's basketball team ahead of the upcoming season. Really fired up to talk about more reasons why you should believe in them. We've got a couple of friends of the program who are going to join us on today's show. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Let's get to it.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Thanks so much for being with us here on Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. Once again, we've got a new intro video here with Locked On to coincide with the return of our regular schedule. We're here with you 5 days a week throughout the rest of this academic and athletic season. So a good while, a lot of good content coming your way. If you have not done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils for free, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. Also, make sure that you check us out on YouTube, like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to all of our feeds that are out there. Follow us on X at LO_Blue Devils and follow me on X at _JJ_Jackson_. Today, we are so thrilled. What a special treat I've got for everyone out there in the Duke world and particularly in the Locked On Blue Devils world. Our worlds are colliding right now. Jordan Mann, Josh Cox, both with us here on today's episode to talk a little bit about the show. We've been discussing this potential date for what feels like years at this point. It has finally come, the three of us together on an episode of Locked On Blue Devils. Josh, I'll start with you, man. How are things in your world?
And things are going great. You know, you got the off-season basketball hype, USA Olympics, basketball going on, and then obviously football season coming up. So, yeah, everything's about to ramp up, right? So I'm just pleased that I could be on here with Mr. Mann. And like the Man-to-Man podcast host, Big J, Little J show, Sidelines Duke. Like, what does this guy not do, right?
A little bit of everything, that's for sure. Jordan, how are you, man?
I was doing better until I saw Josh come on, but it's fine. No, it's going great. I love hanging out with both of you, so having you together is great. But I don't know who's on that Sidelines Twitter yet, so that I thought I was going to be the admin, but it's fine on the side note for that. So if you see tweets, it's not me. I just am a part of the podcast network, but I'm not tweeting yet.
You're going to have to take care of that.
Yeah, don't cancel me, Elon Musk. Can't cancel another Duke football account.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about the Duke basketball team. We've got reasons to believe in Duke going into the new season. I've got 3 reasons that I'm going to present and get a comment from both of these guys. We'll have a little discussion about each of these. Obviously, this time of year, a lot of people are gearing up for football season. It's talking season, but in the Duke world, we focus a whole lot on what's going on in basketball. So we'll talk a little bit about that here today. And I think our first reason that I want to discuss on why you should believe in Duke basketball in 2024-2025 is that we've got another year of experience under Jon Scheyer's belt. We've talked a whole lot about the headline players that are going to make up the roster, how deep this team can be, new transfers coming in, Cooper Flagg. But how about Jon Scheyer? Year 3, going at it year by year, taking another step. So Jon Scheyer going into another year as the head coach, Jordan, is a big reason why I think we should be believing in Duke going into the new season.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, trials and tribulations, like you want to get the failures out early and stuff that didn't work in the first couple of years. He's learned to adapt via the transfer portal. Like what we went empty-handed a couple of years ago, and then Jacob Grandison and pieces like that, small pieces. And now it's like, okay, the roster is really going to be portal guys with the young guys. And so I think it's the perfect mix, and I'm excited for him. And I just want to shout out the Devil's Den pod. They had a great interview with Jon Scheyer, and he really opened up about his first couple of seasons. And, yeah, I think I agree with you that year 3, John, is going to grow even more than year 2.
Yeah, he mentioned on that podcast, Jordan, he was very open with the fact that there were no guarantees made to any returning players for anything at all. And, I mean, I would say the biggest thing about this year 3 is that Jon Scheyer's taking a risk in a good way. I love the risk. But basically, like, hey, we're blowing this thing up. If you think you're getting guaranteed minutes or you think you're getting a guaranteed spot, you're not. And if you don't want to be here and earn it, like, take off, and we're going to build the roster. And so, like, I think it's ballsy for him to do that. I love it. I think it's going to pay off. But it's interesting that it seems like from the first year to the third year, there has been a major shift in like his philosophy on that.
Really cool to hear him talk about as well. Like, look, this is a team that's done a lot of individual work in years past, but it's been more of a concerted team effort so far this summer with so many new players coming in, only 2 guys coming back like we've talked about in Proctor and Foster. And that's got to be a decision that Shire made himself, right? It's not like these players came in and said, hey, we need to play more pickup or whatnot. I'm sure he spoke a lot with his coaching staff to come to a decision like that. But I think it's huge, guys, that there is going to be more teamwork done over the course of the summer and going into the fall. And let's give Jon Scheyer credit for making that decision.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and he's going to reward this new roster with one of the hardest outside non-conference schedules that I've seen for Duke in quite a bit, just like even George Mason at home. Like the A-10's a really good league. And he's like, all right, you know what? We're not going to get a cupcake. We're not playing Dartmouth again. We're playing George Mason. And you look at, obviously, the Kansases of the world. And I'm excited for it, man. I'm really excited for this year and see how Jon Scheyer continues to grow.
Josh, when you look at Jon Scheyer going into another season, you've been a big fan of his. It's taken a while for people to get used to not having Mike Krzyzewski on the sidelines before. Shire is everywhere when it comes to the recruiting world. We're in the heart of Peach Jam, and you know that we're focused on an exciting season coming up this year, but he's also turning himself into one of the best recruiters out there in the country too. And now he's got those players on campus. It's time to actually put the work in.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, obviously, John in his own right, I obviously you have to respect his recruiting. I believe he's improving his X's and O's, but then I think the behind the scenes guy, and it's not so behind the scenes, is Jay Lucas. I mean, you add in Jay's ability to recruit and then Jay's perspective coming from outside the Duke program. Like, I think those things are important as well. And I think that's really helped to develop like a more, I guess you could call it a more well-rounded viewpoint, right, from the coaching staff. It's not just such a heavily Duke viewpoint on that coaching staff with Dildy and with Lucas. Now they've got some outside perspective. And Lucas was, arguably a top 5, top 3 recruiter when he came to Duke anyway. So I love what Coach Shire is doing. I feel like this is another year as well for Duke fans to get more comfortable with his demeanor, with the way he leads the team, kind of the patience that he leads with, and it's different and it's okay. So, it's time for us to be cool with that, right?
Jordan, you've played college basketball. You've been on coaching staffs. Speak to the coaching staff as well, if you will, and what you can – now that, again, this is a point we talked about with, yes, there were players that transferred out of the program from this season, but we did not have any coaches leave. Emil Jefferson gets the head coach or gets a job with the Celtics this past offseason, so that was kind of a change that went through. There's continuity now on the coaching staff.
Yeah, there's continuity, and to go off of what Josh was saying about Jay and Dildy, one guy is underrated that I thought that he brought in was a terrific hire was Schrage. Like, Schrage is on the staff, but a Shire never being a head coach and bringing a guy that was a head coach at Elon, and I know people are like, Elon, whatever, still a guy that's been standing there. There's a complete difference between being in the first chair and the third chair. And getting a guy that's been in the first chair, it's a guy that he can pull aside and be like, hey, like the ebbs and flows and the tempo of the game, just in film, in the game, like that's a key guy to have in your pocket. And so from Schrage to go from a head coach to be on the Duke bench or behind the bench, whatever it is, was a great hire by Shire. And then, you see they're really close, tight-knit coaching staff. I mean, Carrawell's been there forever, and those guys are really doing a very good job of just being a unit. And now you're seeing that blossom with getting transfers now on top of the number 1 basically recruiting class.
Jon Scheyer is a major reason why you should believe in Duke basketball going into the new season. We'll talk a little bit more about other reasons why you should do that after we take our first time out here on today's show. Lockdown Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. That's right, we're in the heart of summer, and it might feel like there aren't as many live sporting events on for you to be taking part of, but that's why FanDuel wants to help you out. For this summer, they're hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right, we've got Major League Baseball going. What a fun all-star game we had last night. The National League can't catch a break. The American League continues to dominate with a 5-3 win, but that means coming up this weekend, MLB games back in action, and you want to make FanDuel a part of your daily routine. So right now, head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball, and they are a proud sponsor of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. Let's go. Let's keep moving forward here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. I'm JJ Jackson. I've got Josh Cox and Jordan Mann both with me here on today's show as we'll keep talking about reasons why you should believe in Duke, a little early July chatter for a team ahead of this next basketball season. Just mentioned John Shire. Now let's talk about the team as a whole. I got to give some credit to the depth, right? Every day it feels like we're hearing about another guy kind of blowing up in these practice and scrimmage settings. Josh, I'll start with you here. It just feels like, man, we've got a really deep team that's set to be on campus this season.
Yeah, we absolutely do. And I guess that goes back to John Scheyer, right? Like he's got some decisions to make. I mean, I think we all know this, that if he goes by kind of the vibe that he's done his first two seasons, you may see a little bit more of an extended bench early in the season, maybe 9, maybe even 10 deep. But once you really get down into crunch time, I think he's about an 8 deep guy, where K could sometimes get to 7. I think John is more of an 8 deep guy, and I mean it's going to be very interesting to see who winds up in that top 8 or who winds up in the closing lineup, right? Depending on what the matchups are. But Duke is definitely deep. I mean, I don't believe these transfers came in to not play these older guys. And then obviously I don't think these recruits came in to not play, and so you're going to have a lot of competition, I believe, starting even now. You mentioned in the offseason how there's a lot of teamwork. Well, that's going to provide some iron sharpening iron and some, hopefully guys pushing each other. And I think it's important for a guy like a Mason Gillis who's been around. He's older, has been, successful, been to the Final Four, all those types of things, to not only push those incoming freshmen, but to get pushed by those incoming freshmen. And so the depth is an incredible thing, but it's going to be a very interesting journey this year to see who is in that lineup, who's in that rotation, and who's on the outside looking in.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, Josh said it perfect. And like 8-man rotation is ideal, but you're getting guys like Mason Gillis that – his role, he was so good at his role at Purdue that went to the national championship game of being a guy off the bench. He won 6th man of the year. That's going to be his role at Duke, is a guy that's going to come in and he's going to play 15 minutes. You know what you're going to get. You're going to get hustle, maybe knock down a couple of threes and play hard defense. Whereas in the past, Duke's 7th and 8th guys have been very inconsistent when they've just came in. Like an emergency Jalen Blakes comes in for 12 minutes. It was never really a good sign for Duke if he's getting double-digit minutes for the most part in big games. Whereas now you're getting Mason Gillis to solidify that role, a Sion James to be a possible, if he's not alongside in the starting lineup, then he's coming off the bench, and he's really talented on both ends of the floor. And these guys are – what he did very well in the transfer portal is getting really good role players, like guys that exceed certain roles. And to go off the Mason Gillis thing again, he's getting a lot of love from me. But a guy that – lost in the first round to one of the worst teams in March Madness history in Fairleigh Dickinson, to then go the next year to go the runner-up, screams a guy that's mentally tough enough to play at Duke as a role player, because he's been on the lowest of lows in March Madness and almost the highest of highs. So get a guy like that as a locker room guy too. It's going to be really good for Duke.
Yeah, and also, I mean, who are we fooling? We're building this team around Cooper Flagg. I mean, the team is going to be built around his skill set and what he does best. And then you have a guy like Khan, who, like, honestly, I think for many Duke fans, kind of flew under the radar a little bit in that recruiting process. And then all of a sudden you see some mock drafts and you're like, oh, NBA guys are high on Khan. And then you see the 5-on-5 scrimmage highlights and you're like, yeah, this guy's got a unique, really fundamental game about him. And so once again, how do you look at a guy like him and not give him minutes? And so this is a great problem, though, right? I mean, inevitably it's Duke, and I know whatever. There's going to be a foot injury.
Yep,
it's going to happen. So somebody's going to be out of the rotation for a little bit of time. It's going to happen. And so having depth, it's never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing to have another guy behind a guy on the bench that's ready to play.
I mean, everybody's had their own moment, right? These past few weeks, like Sion James had, wow, what he was doing at the Tatum camp. And now Khan's getting his moment of praise. We're not even touching Cooper Flagg. We're going to save him towards the end of the show. Spoiler alert for everyone out there. He's a major reason why you should believe in Duke this season. But all of the other guys, right? The experienced guys coming back each and every day, it feels like there's someone new that we're hyping up. And it's like, oh, yeah, he is going to be on the Duke basketball team this season, Jordan.
Yeah, he's going to be good. Malik Brown, like, again, these guys that have experience and have, like, Malik Brown basically auditioned for Duke last year when they played in Cameron because he just took over for Syracuse. And, yeah, the vets are perfect. And then the young guys, like Khan is going to – I think Khan's the best incoming freshman wing player outside of obviously Cooper Flagg, but that's my hot take is he's born ready to play. And which I like. He's under the radar. Could you imagine a guy that's under the radar for a Duke recruiting class with the transfers they have coming in too? Like this guy too? No, it's just Cooper Flagg and then all these other vets coming in. But yeah, dude, and then not even talking about year 3 Tyrese Proctor. I think Proctor, I have bought stock on him after the Elite 8 loss. Like I'm going to buy him low because at the end of the day, the guy played 40 minutes a game, like 5 out of the last 7 games for Duke. Like he did not take one break for 30 seconds. And I think at the end of last year, he just got really tired. And I think he's going to come back on like man on a mission for Duke as a junior.
And a major shift has taken place because Jordan Mann has led the Isaiah Evans hype train. We haven't even mentioned him one single time, right? And you're also quick to let us know that Common Malawak has had top 5 buzz at the next. We haven't even mentioned Common at all in this entire discussion. Like, holy cow, this team.
I don't now Slim, I like Slim. But I've always thought he was right behind like Khan and Darren. Like I think he might play like some, but I think I would have those two just in front of him. And then Common, I've been on record. I think he's gonna be a better pro than he will at Duke. I'm really worried like the first couple months. He's still learning. Like I think he might get in foul trouble being so long and lanky.
We're still glad to have him on our side though.
Oh, yes. I'm clearing the air. Yes, he will be good for Duke.
Speaking of depth, then that's why it's big. The big Pat, man, it is, stuck it out. And I think some of us maybe were a little nervous when Common, committed that maybe we would lose that commitment. And so, once again, you will never hear me complain about, we have another body that can be plugged in that position, in that spot.
All right, so there's been a lot of Con Knipple hype as of late. It's no secret Duke is promoting him like crazy over these last few weeks, what he did at Jason Tatum Skills Academy. Josh, I proudly led everyone on the Jaden Shoot hype train. That did not last very long in Durham.
It's now in Blacksburg. Yeah.
Wrong turn. I'm hesitant to jump on the Con hype train, man, but I'm just letting you know for the JJ Jackson folks out there, I'm close to jumping aboard with Con, man, because I think this guy might be one heck of a player this year.
Well, what got JJ on the Shoot hype train was those 5-on-5 scrimmage videos, and he wouldn't miss a 3. Like they don't show these guys missing.
Yeah. And Con doesn't miss either. That's why I'm trying.
I'm sure they missed a few. I'm sure they missed a few. But hey, real quick before, because I think I know where you're heading for the third one. I think we'd be remiss talking about the depth and talking about the transfer portal and not talking about something. I think I'm actually going to write an article for Duke Report about this. I believe if you could sum up the word of the improvement that John Shire did with this roster, it's the word toughness. And I'm not throwing stones at last year's group at all.
Yeah.
But I was there at the pit game, right? I saw us get pumped, at home. I saw different things that would happen throughout the season last season where I felt like, man, we really need that dog that's like, okay, getting that technical, right? He's okay. Having to get reined in. And I think Duke added some guys like that to this roster. And so overall with the depth, I love that it seems like this team is going to have an edge about them and be a little bit tougher and punch back a little bit quicker than maybe previous seasons.
I can't wait to see it all come together, and I think toughness is a perfect way to describe what we're set to see out of this team. All right, we've got one more timeout to get to. Cooper Flagg, we've talked about him for weeks now at this point. We're talking about him some more. A major reason why you should believe in Duke ahead of this upcoming college basketball season. We'll have those thoughts after this final break here on the show. Thank you again for making Locked On Blue Devils your first listen here today. We really appreciate all of the support. Once this show is over, make sure you go check out Locked On ACC. Obviously, ACC kickoff is coming up next week. Big things ahead of this upcoming college football season. Also want to let you know about Locked On Sports Today, a big show where we discuss everything going on in the wide world of sports. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Go make that your second listen of the day. All right, we'll keep going. We've got both our friends Jordan Mann and Josh Cox here with us on the show today. Got to talk about Cooper Flagg because the hype is unbelievable. But before we do that, these guys put in countless hours giving you Duke content that you need to read, consume, watch, all of these things. So, Jordan, I'll let you go first here. Tell folks about the work you do.
Yeah, Josh did a very good job of introducing me as Big J, Little J show, man to man. Also, he left out that I'm the #1 Duke football pot. No, I'm just kidding. But I have a YouTube channel, JMan_. I do film breakdowns, and I'll do more this summer leading into preseason, and looking forward to doing that. Maybe I'll do one for Josh, film breakdown of Josh's game here in the future.
I'm working on my game. I'm actually about to pick up pickleball. And so maybe you can do a little pickleball break.
I'm already there, Josh.
Are you there?
Yeah, well, I'm there with you, man.
The last episode I'm on. So
Jordan, man.
Hey, Jordan, give yourself a few years. You'll be in the pickleball mode.
Yeah.
Nope. So,
Josh, tell us about your work.
Yeah, for sure. So on the football side, at Duke FB Talk, we have a Section 17 podcast where we really deeply follow Duke football. And so obviously we're talking basketball here today, but if you're a psycho Duke football fan, then you'd appreciate Section 17 podcast. And then on the basketball side, work with Freddie Hodges at the Duke Report, covering Duke basketball there. And so that last season was my first season doing that, but enjoy both of them. Emotionally connected to football, mentally connected to basketball. That's the way I think of myself. So
it's a good way to put it. I think I'm like that too.
Yeah, and Josh, people may be asking, wait a minute, I think we've seen Jordan Mann on the Section 17 podcast before,
yeah.
Right? I mean, like, this has happened.
Jordan, and by the way, Jordan, you're getting an invite for our preseason again. He was in the preseason stats one this year, where we end up getting a steak dinner. I won the steak dinner. And we all showed up, and our podcast sponsor, covered the meal. So no one had to actually pay for my steak dinner. So there was no real punishment there. But anyway, yeah, we have a lot of fun. And whenever we have someone out of town or whatever, inevitably that happens a couple times a year, Jordan's usually our first call. So we enjoy hanging.
He's a phone call away. We love that.
That's right.
We love that. All right, Jordan, it's your turn, man. It's reasons to believe about this Duke basketball team going into 2024-2025 season. We've talked a lot about Cooper Flagg on Locked On Blue Devils. We've heard you talk about him as well. I mean, you watch this guy play. The whole world is talking about him. People are officially declaring maybe there is going to be some Zion Williamson type hype around this player going into the season. Wow, he's an absolute reason why you should believe in this team.
Yeah, I mean, how comfortable he looks in the USA scrimmages 5-on-5. I don't care if it's organized pickup in USA. When you're shooting a 3 over Anthony Davis, then you're getting an and 1 against Bam Adebayo, hitting a turnaround jumper on the baseline against Drew Holiday, who's one of the best NBA defenders in the NBA. Like, yeah, his poise, patience, touch, all of it, like he has it. And what makes him so dangerous is he's so unselfish. Like, we're seeing him score the ball in these clips, but the guy can win a game for Duke having 8 points and you'd feel like he had 50 because he's that active doing all the other things that win you basketball games. And that's why I love him, because I don't think he needs to has scored 25 points to be like, wow, Cooper Flagg took over. he could take over a 4-minute stretch by scoring 1 bucket. So I love Cooper Flagg's game in that aspect.
Yeah, I think you also have to trust, basketball experts like let's say Kevin Durant. I like to trust what Kevin Durant has to say about Cooper Flagg, and he had high praise for him and his potential. But you mentioned some of the highlights that we saw from USA basketball, and the one sequence where he hits a 3 over AD was awesome because he had Drew Holiday on him as he was bringing the ball up, and then he got there was a screen there and a switch. But the other one where AD deflects the ball away from him, and 2 seconds later he's cutting back door and getting the bounce pass for the dunk. Things like that. It's like this kid's 17 years old and he's making the right basketball plays in an NBA environment. And to me, that's what it is. I mean, you mentioned the Zion Williamson hype, JJ. The Zion Williamson hype, I think it could be the same as far as the intensity of it. But Zion's hype really was created once he arrived on campus and people were like, oh, crap. That first game against Kentucky, these dudes he can actually really play. He's not just a YouTube dunker. Cooper's hype is oh, this guy's ready to go to the NBA. He just has to make this stop in Durham before he gets there. And I think there may even be more national, international hype about Cooper in that sense, because this is absolutely a kid that if the rule was not in place, he would have gone first in the draft and he would be playing, NBA basketball this season. So I'm looking forward to that. I love the unselfishness point that Jordan made as well. This isn't a guy that's coming in and trying to he's not going to play hero ball. He's not going to have to get X number of shots up to impact the game. I think he's going to impact the game all across the stat sheet. And there may be some games where we're like, man, I thought he had more points than that. And you look at the stat sheet and it's like he had 8, 9, 10 points, but he just impacted the game in so many other ways. And you mentioned Common maybe having a little bit of you have to adjust to college basketball. And I think Cooper can really help with that. He's going to draw defenders, and hopefully Common can just be that Derek Lively rim protector, grab the rebound, and then dunk the basketball on the offensive end, every time you get a chance. And I think Cooper is the one who's going to be the key to that.
Anything you want to add there, Jordan?
Yeah, Josh, who would you take number 1 overall in the NBA draft if Cooper was going to come out this year? Would it be Cooper Flagg or Bronny James? Curious to know your thoughts.
Well, here's the cool thing about it. We know Cooper doesn't really deserve it, but Cooper's dad has just been so influential in the NBA. And I would probably do that just because, his dad's been influential and hey, why not?
Gotta got that on record.
All right. So, But this is wild because I was going to talk about Cooper's dad for a moment here, and a point that I've been making on the show here, talking about the hype surrounding Cooper Flagg. His father, Ralph, was interviewed for a story on NBA.com, and you talk about, hey, Kevin Durant is giving this guy high praise. All the stars of Team USA were fired up with what they saw out of Cooper Flagg. But also the people in your circle, they matter a whole lot to you, I would imagine. And his dad, after the fact, was interviewed and said, quote, going into the season at Duke, after something like this, referring to his son, he's got to be saying, well, I know I can play with these NBA guys. Let's see what happens now. He'll go back to campus and reset, be ready for what's coming up next. His own dad is saying pretty much, yeah, we just saw what he did against Team USA. College basketball, probably a little easy for him.
Yeah, it's like a baseball player when they say when they're hot that the ball looks like a beach ball coming out of the pitcher's hand. When you go from the NBA and now you're playing against your college teammates, it's basically like the basket looks like the ocean. I'm shooting this, the speed's a lot slower in college. So, yeah, I could see where his dad's coming from in that aspect.
Yeah, for sure. You want the people in your circle, cautiously optimistic, and you know what I mean, and those types of things. And so I think hearing that from his dad is great. And I think bringing this full circle back to your original point and on the podcast today, it is now John Shire's job to place Cooper Flagg in the right positions to be the best player that he can be. The spacing of the floor, the lineups, the philosophy of the offense, it's got to be tailor-made for Cooper's game. And I think all of us can remember, we mentioned Zion Williamson, we can all remember that season where it's like, man, if we could go back and relive that last month or so of that season, it would have been give the ball to Zion Williamson at the elbow and get the heck out of the way and let him drive the basket to the basket every single time. That's what he does in New Orleans in the NBA. Like, he could have done that at Duke. And so I think it's going to be up to John Scheyer and the coaching staff really to say, here's Cooper's game. Here's his maximum game. How can we put him in that position most often to impact winning?
And I think you got to be excited. You got to be excited about what's coming with the Duke basketball team this season. 3 big reasons that you should believe in the Blue Devils ahead of this season. If you're watching Locked On Blue Devils each and every day, I could probably assume you already believe in them, but this is more talking points for folks to have. So really do appreciate Jordan and Josh both joining us on the program in the coming weeks. We're going to have to do this again, and we'll talk a little bit why you should believe about football going into the new season. So Jordan and Josh, once again, fellas, from each of you, thank you for taking time to join me on the show again today.
Yeah, brother, no problem. I'll see y'all possibly next week.
Yeah, in person, dinner. We're rocking it. Let's do it.
Can't wait. All right, that is Josh Cox and Jordan Mann joining us here on the show today. Really good stuff as always. That's going to do it for our show here on Locked On Blue Devils. Thank you for your support. As always, we'll be back with you again tomorrow. That'll do it. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.